best part of growing up every year was when summer vacation finally came around. June was almost over, blue skies had made way for the sun to brighten the green grass up, providing the freshest air you've ever breathed in, and on the last day of school, you knew that the couple of months ahead of you were going to be filled with joy. Some summer vacations stick with you forever, core memories in your heart that will never fail to bring a smile to your face when you reflect back on them. Sitting by the beach, swimming in cooling ponds or rivers, playing outside with your friends, visiting family you don't often get to see, you know the drill. When you get older, summer vacation can stop feeling as special, as with a lot of things in life. I'll be 23 as of this very July, and in the season in between college semesters, where the sunny weather provides nice afternoons and outings for me and my friends and girlfriend, but nothing will ever beat the childhood wonder that summer used to bring. But what if that feeling could be captured and reproduced? And of course on this channel, that would be in video game form. Game designer Kazayabe felt that same sentiment, wishing to go back to his own childhood. In 1997, after forming his own development studio Millennium Kitchen, he pitched a summer vacation simulator to Sony, which then greenlit the project. The resulting game would become Boku no Natsuyasumi, Summer Holiday 20th Century, or My Summer Vacation. An adventure game that takes place in a small Japanese prefecture as the player takes control of 10-year-old boy Boku, or Yu, on his trip to his extended family's home during August of 1975, the same year Kazayabe would have been 10. This game is not what we're talking about today, but instead its sequel, as all 4 games in Sony's Boku no Natsuyasumi series were never released outside of Japan, and thus gamers have to rely on fan translations to experience this series in all of its glory. The first game's Spanish translation patch by Griffith VIII was released just last year, with its English patch being worked on by them as well. The sequels, however, was released in November 2023 thanks to Hilltop Works. Now for some personal backstory. Back in March of 2024, I went on my first trip to Japan, and it was certainly a month I will never forget. I got to hang out with one of my best friends, Reen, and shared so many great experiences with him that will stay with me forever. On my way there, I visited my longtime friend Aiden, better known as Linkachu, who put me onto the Boku no Natsuyasumi series after asking me to pick up some physical copies for him on my trip. It wasn't until August of that year that I recalled the game, seeing Hilltop's tweet to check the game out, playing one in-game day for each day throughout August. But by then it was already the end of the month. 1 year later, however, and I did just that, and what a magical experience that was, and one I want to recommend to you. Boku no Natsuyasumi 2 Umi no Bokenhen, or Adventure by the Sea, was released for the PlayStation 2 in Japan in July 2002. Like the rest of the games in the series, the game was targeted at 30-year-olds yearning for the same feeling of reliving that summer vacation of 75, once again starring Boku, although a different character in each game, visiting his extended family in the seaside town of Fumi for the month of August as his mother is due to have a baby soon. Each in-game day is filled with events that you can participate in to progress individual side plots that contribute to the greater narrative, but all are optional. You could also just run around, catch fish, catch bugs, participate in beetle battles, swim around the many lakes and beaches, and ignore all of the wonderfully written characters with their own amount of depth and charm to them. Knowing me, I of course took the more character-driven route. For my playthrough, I played one in-game day for every day of August, trying to complete as many events and experience as much of what the game had to offer as I could. Each day of Boku's summer vacation starts with a family breakfast. Afterwards, you're free to explore as much of Fumi as is available to you at that given point in the game. Daytime is of course the longest section of your day, and how quickly time passes can be changed in the settings. This is something I highly recommend switching regularly when you feel like things are dragging on too long until you can do the next thing you want, or if you're not going to have enough time to do everything you want. Once the twilight of evening comes around, you know that family dinner is nearing, so wrap up your daily errands and evening exclusive events. Soon enough, your Uncle Genta finds you to tell you that dinner is ready and to bring you home, or your Aunt Mitsuko will yell out to you if you're inside the house. Once dinner is over, it's nighttime, and you have a bit more time to explore, go check in on your friends, etc. You can go to bed early if you wish, but if not, Boku will eventually tire out and you'll automatically go to bed. Every night ends with Boku writing a page in his journal on the most exciting thing that happened during that day, or basically whatever the most important story event was, typically with a charming illustration to coincide with Boku's childlike take on the events. Even if you didn't do a whole lot, Boku will still have had a wonderful day regardless. I suppose I should introduce the starting lineup of characters. You meet Yasuko Sagara, a high schooler coming home for the summer, on your boat ride into Fumi. You'll also come across her younger sister Hikari, who uses origami fortune telling to tell you what you should do that day or the next day if it's night, with a red outline highlighting more important story events. Their grandfather owns the medical clinic at the top of the hill, and Nagisa is the nurse that works there. Along with your aunt and uncle, their 2 boys Takashi and his younger brother Shigeru can be found hanging out, catching and battling beetles, hanging by the beach, etc. Throughout your vacation, you'll also come across several other characters, such as Yo, a middle school rocket builder who has yet to have a successful launch and was also Yasuko's childhood best friend until they just stopped hanging out after she moved to Tokyo for school. His father, nicknamed Wolfman, can be met at the top of the mountain starting around the last third of your vacation, a charcoal maker who's notorious for having hunted wolves in his past before retiring. Several characters also stay at Mitsuko and Genta's guest house over the course of the month. Australian hippie photographer Simon stays for the entirety of the summer, stating that Fumi has the most beautiful sunset on Earth, and thus says Fumi is his favorite location in the entire world, besides being home with his mother, of course. Yoshika, a college girl, also stays for a good duration of the game. She's very brash and forward, typically found playing her guitar in the evening or sitting for a drink with Simon at night. Lastly is Taniguchi, a quiet, reserved, suspicious man who has some kind of connection to Yoshika, but Boku is never able to fully make heads or tails of it. You've also got brief appearances by Yasuko and Hikari's estranged mother Shizue, who left before Yasuko's father died of an illness at a young age, leaving them to be raised by their grandfather, with Yasuko seemingly living alone while in Tokyo. You've also got a monk who visits to pay respects to the dead once a year, and Yasuda, a friend or co-worker of Yoshika who stays in a tent by the beach, secretly fawning over her, but Boku isn't one to keep secrets tight-lipped. Before I delve into more story specifics, in case you want to avoid spoilers, I'll move on to gameplay. The Boku no Natsuyasumi series essentially plays like an old-school Resident Evil game, where the explorable environments are made up of pre-rendered 3D backgrounds used as 2D assets, with your 3D character navigating through them. All of the environments and backgrounds here are picturesque and absolutely stunning. The level of detail poured into every ounce of this game's look breathes so much life into your in-game day. I'm sure as a Japanese player this will remind one of the 70s countryside with ease, but as a North American player, it's like delving into a new, fresh world so real that you can almost touch it. From the pouring water near the showers or the moving lakes, the bees buzzing up in the trees, the hidden flower pumpkin gardens, to the full playground only used by 4 kids, all the way to the cubic and barren dock. This game is filled with such enchanting areas that beg to be explored, and doing so just to become familiar with Fumi is like a charm. The game is controlled via the D-pad and not the analog sticks, which is definitely a carryover from the first game as the original PS1 controllers didn't have any sticks. You shift Boku around using left or right, can turn around by pressing down, move forward by holding X, and talk to people by pressing circle. To be completely honest, this was the first game I've ever played with this kind of control style, so it took a fair bit of getting used to, but it's fairly intuitive once you get the hang of it. You can use triangle to equip your fishing rod when near water, or even press the right bumper to equip your bug catching net without having to go into the menu. The only time I felt like navigating was a bit disorienting was in the playground, and I feel like that's due to the camera angles of each section of it not really matching up with where you think you're going, so sometimes early in my playthrough I wandered around a little aimlessly in a pretty small area, but near endgame I figured out the lay of the land. Within your menu, you also have the settings, your bug cage with all the bugs you have at any given time, with there being a set maximum before you have to set some free, an insect encyclopedia that you can add the bugs you catch into by analyzing them, and your item inventory, which is essentially only used for key items for side quests or photos that Simon gives you. But most importantly, the ability to remove your shirt, which practically every boy does in their youth when it's hot out and they're running around outside. There's no real way to keep track of what events or story quests you've involved yourself in, and while I can see that being a problem for some people, I feel like Hikari's fortune telling and actually being like Boku, just remembering who you're supposed to speak to and what you want to do the next day, feels way more immersive than you may think. One day on my vacation, I accidentally pressed the circle button while at the edge of the docks and was surprised to see Boku jump into the water only to be greeted by the ability to swim through the ocean, or at least the area directly surrounding the beach and the one across from it. The controls for swimming here, despite still being controlled by the D-pad, feel fantastic. I was incredibly surprised at just how smooth it felt to swim around and just how great the 3D environment looked. Down here, you can collect bottle caps, which can also be found in select places in the regular areas, swim around with the fishes, and at one point even find a secret item to progress the story to get the best ending. Of course, Boku needs to come to the surface for air now and again, but this boy has lungs, and for each bottle cap you collect, your air capacity increases slightly. If you find yourself wanting to get around Fumi just a bit faster, just outside the front door of your family's house is a bike that shares the same controls as regular walking, but once again is much faster and smoother. This is how I typically got around, but wherever you place your bike once you get off is where it stays until the next day starts, so if you forget where you put it, good luck, buddy. Now that I'm thinking about it, the only way to find out the in-game time, at least that I found, is by looking at the clock in the front porch of the house. So if you have any events that are supposed to be done at exactly noon, like 12 p.m., then you'd best pay attention to it. There's a fridge in the restaurant part of the kitchen where you can pay money to get certain items just for shits and giggles. How do you obtain money? Well, by giving the doctor you're on a back massage, of course. 10 yen per massage. Well, I think that's really all I have to say in regards to the gameplay, so I'd say it's time we get back to the story. One thing I absolutely adored while playing this game was your ability as Boku to essentially get close enough to the people around you to repair broken relationships or witness them bloom all over again. Take Yasuko and her mother Shizue for instance. The two haven't spoken to each other in literal years. Shizue has the key to Yasuko's room, therefore Yasuko is barred from the rest of the house and by extension her family. She always has to go outside and around to the front door to see or hang out with them, so she typically just hangs out in her room by herself. If you talk to Shizue enough, you begin to learn her grievances about how she and her husband left, and how she feels guilty that she still stayed away from the kids even after his passing. In what I read as a moment of cowardice while still trying to right wrongs, she tells Boku that she'll be leaving the key in her room when she leaves, which you can give to Yasuko, allowing her to finally open a door that's represented so much family distrust for her. On the topic of Yasuko, over time you can talk to both her and Yo about their previous friendship, realizing that they both wish to become friends again but are too worried that the other doesn't share the same sentiment. Eventually, thanks to encouragement from Boku, Yo decides to visit Yasuko to finally get some closure, and when he does so the next day, Yasuko is filled with such glee that they can finally be friends again, to the point that for the rest of the game following this event, the two are practically inseparable, seldom seen without the other. Sticking with the Sagara family, during the evenings once the doctor has left the clinic, sometimes the empty back room for admitted patients has its door ajar. This is because it's now being occupied by a beautiful girl with a kimono that would be old school even in the 70s. While Boku doesn't quite get it, you as the player can gather quite easily that this woman is not at this time, reflecting on days past and hoping that her family is happy and thriving, stuck watching the sunset from her bedside window. You continue to visit the woman, having pleasant conversation after pleasant conversation, and eventually you're gifted a pretty old 50 yen coin from her, unusable in the present time. One day, nearing the end of your vacation, she returns after a long absence and can be found talking to Grandpa Sagara, with my suspicion of the woman being his long passed on wife confirmed. The theme of connecting with those around you, not forgetting your loved ones or those you cherish, and the importance of not leaving them behind is very prominent in Boku no Natsuyasumi too. I feel like that specific theme and motif really touched me on a personal level, allowing me to feel an even deeper connection with the people I met along the way. Outside of that, you have other storylines like the one involving the cave, where Takashi almost breaks his arm after falling into it. If you decide to disobey your aunt and uncle and investigate the cave yourself, you find a milk tin filled with a dick ton of gold bars, but of course Boku decides not to take any because it's not real yen. Later in the game, you find out that the suspicious guest Taniguchi is a notorious gold thief who's been on the run for numerous years, with his statute of limitations almost up. Luckily, Yoshika and Yasuda, who have actually been undercover cops this entire time, arrest Taniguchi but never find the gold. Honestly, I feel like you can sense that Taniguchi never really cared for the gold anymore, and just wanted to be a free man, regretting his crime but being unable to escape from it. That's just my read on it though. Yoshika and Yasuda have their own little romance on the side, with Yasuda confiding his crush on Yoshika to Boku, but of course Boku immediately spills that to Yoshika, who is surprised but appreciative. Perhaps after the events of the game, she decides to go with him after getting over her ex from years prior, whom she mentioned several times to Boku. Yoshika and Simon seem to flirt with each other a fair bit at night, but it's actually a pretty clever red herring, as Simon is revealed to be engaged to Nagisa on Boku's penultimate night on Fumi, with Boku previously suspecting Nagisa of seeing the ferry captain. During several small moments throughout the game, an adult Boku can be heard narrating, reflecting on the summer of 1975, and sometimes pre-rendered CG cutscenes play during key moments, like when Boku feels the sunlight in the palm of his hand, or when viewing the Wolfman's flashback. The opening and ending also feature beautiful CG cutscenes. On Boku's final night on Fumi, all of his friends gather together for a goodbye party on the beach, Yoshika having returned to say goodbye to Boku, singing one final goodbye song while playing her guitar, and Yo seemingly having one last big surprise for the next day. Boku and Yasuko leave on the ferry the following day, August 31st, 3 days after Boku's little brother was finally born. Yasuko worries that Yo is nowhere to be seen, sad to have not been able to say goodbye to him, but if you manage to track down and find the 3 rocket valves from Yo's first test launch at the start of the game, Yo launches off one final rocket, learning from all his past mistakes, and with all of Fumi giving their hope to back him up, his rocket launches into the sky, and by the end of the credits, Boku's name, which was written on the rocket, lands on the moon. This was certainly a summer that Boku will never forget. The end. Now, I know there are multiple endings to the game, but that was just the one I ended up with. Just like with Boku, the summer of 1975 I spent on Fumi will certainly be one I will never forget, as I had an incredible amount of fun finally checking out this wonderful gem of a game. If you're the type to enjoy slow, quiet, and cozy summer simulators, but wish to experience a more story and character-oriented one that you can still experience at your own pace, then Boku no Natsuyasumi 2 is definitely the game for you. The wonderful character art style by Minako Ueda, paired with the brilliant writing and world building and gorgeous locales and ambience, all serve to create an unforgettable experience that is truly something to behold. I absolutely adored my time spent with this game and can't wait to sometime soon play the game that preceded this or the games that followed it, or even this summer play its successors also by Kazayabe, such as Attack of the Friday Monsters: A Tokyo Tale, the Shinchan Summer Vacation games, or Natsu-Mon. Either way, this summer vacation was a special one for me, and I have Boku no Natsuyasumi 2 to thank for filling me with the same childhood wonder that I felt on my own summer vacations, as well as bringing me something new by allowing me to spend it near the Japanese beachside, all while making new friends along the way. If this summer you find yourself missing the days where you ran through the woods, swam in a river, or sat by the beach with your friends on a nice blue-skied hot summer day, play Boku no Natsuyasumi 2. You will not regret it. Thanks for watching.